Brian Ortega stole Cub Swanson's championship momentum with a second-round guillotine in the main event of UFC Fresno on Saturday night at the Save Mart Center. Undefeated Ortega jumped on the choke on the second round after initiating a clinch with Swanson. Kicking off the fence after establishing the submission, Ortega showcased his high-level jiu-jitsu when he readjusted to make his grip tighter to force the tap from Swanson. Killer Cub was dictating the pace of the fight in the striking exchanges up until the finish, but Ortega took his changes each time he could initiate his submission game. In the final 10 seconds of the first round, he locked up a standing Das choke with Swanson only gaining an exit from the bell that ended the round. Brian Ortega claimed a second-round win over Cub Swanson in the main event of UFC Fresno. Speaking after the win, Ortega claimed he wants to fight the winner of Max Holloway vs. Frankie Edgar, a man who he feels deserves his shot against the featherweight champion. "I know Frankie Edgar got injured and, like I said, I'm not cocky or nothing, but I would like to respectfully wait for him to get his shot with Max Holloway," said Ortega after the win. "We'll see how that goes and hopefully I can just wait it out a little bit. Between now and then we'll wait and see who'll get the title shot at." In the co-main event, Gabriel Benitez put on a striking clinic and overwhelmed Jason Knight over 3 rounds in his first test against a ranked UFC fighter. Undefeated Ortega jumped on a guillotine choke in round 2 after initiating a clinch. The featherweight's speed allowed him to create angles and score liberally with his dynamic kicking techniques. He had to overcome adversity during the bout when he suffered a bitten finger in the first round, resulting in a point deduction for Knight, and an eye poke in the second round. Benitez will likely move on to bigger challenges further up the featherweight food chain after his best career performance to date. Marlon Moraes finally announced his arrival to the UFC with dramatic first-round knee knockout over highly touted bantamweight Aljamain Sterling. Moraes dropped Sterling with a combination, and as he tried to close out the fight, the New Yorker managed to protect himself through a series of submission attempts from his back. When they got back to the feet, Moraes threw up his left leg, catching Sterling on the front of his head with his knee and rendered him unconscious. The Cub was dictating the pace of the fight in the striking exchanges up until the finish. Ortega claimed he now wants to fight the winner of Max Holloway vs. Frankie Edgar. In his post-fight interview, Moraes admitted that he hadn't intended to knee Sterling, claiming that his intention was to land a kick instead. Scott Holtzman's Superior Wrestling saw him through his lightweight bout with Daryl Horcher. Hot Sauce scored takedowns at ease over the 3 rounds and managed to score valuable shots from top position. The referee took Holtzman's dominant position away unnecessarily on a number of occasions, standing the fighters up for a perceived lack of activity from the 34-year-old. Former college linebacker Eric Anders made it 2 wins in as many outings under the UFC banner when he scored a third-round TKO victory over Marcus Perez. Gabriel Benitez put on a striking clinic and overwhelmed Jason Knight in the co-main event following his win. Anders called for a showdown with former light heavyweight champion Lyoto Machida. The Brazilian chased the fight after getting knocked down by a straight punch in the second round. Anders dropped Perez at the beginning of the third round, but despite his efforts to finish the fight, the Brazilian managed to see the contest out. Unbeaten Benito Lopez engaged in an epic 3-round thriller against durable bantamweight Albert Morales, winning a decision in his UFC debut. It was anyone's guess who won the fight after Morales appeared to grow as the fight wore on, but Lopez's aggression and flashy unorthodox kicking techniques won him the nod on the judges' scorecards.